Hello, everybody. It is Tuesday afternoon. Crypto market cap 2.33 trillion and the volume 100 billion. So the volume's back, but the price action's not. In fact, just as I was starting, Bitcoin pumped about $500. So it's not completely dead, but it has been a bad week or so. Bitcoin is at 64,800 as I'm looking live right now. Dominance 54.8, fear and greed 74. And we'll talk about flows, how Bitcoin's struggling, but not. How liquidity is dipping, but not. How volatility is dropping. Yes, it is. We'll talk about layer 2 games and crypto. We'll talk about AI, NVDA, Tesla, the surge. We'll talk about Bank of America being super bullish. We'll talk about Gogglegate. You never heard that before. I just made it up. Goggles, Apple Vision Goggle. Gogglegate. Anyway, you'll see when I get to it anyway. Let's just jump in. I've got 45 nuggets to catch you up on all things on the markets. So thank you all for coming. Thank you, Sean Donnelly, as well, for being here in the chat. And of course, none of this is financial advice, as you all know. And shout out to Patreon from Murray Buchman. James, so much appreciation. In all my years, the KPM sincerity and extreme intelligence is impressive. Thanks for investing in us, Patreon folks. Again, I am nobody special. I believe anybody could do this. You just have to apply yourself. But thank you so much for being here. Let's go. Let's start with the ugly news. Unlocks. Wow. Unlocks have been nasty. They've been smashing altcoins for most of this summer. In fact, Marcus Thielen, founder of 10x Research, posited that a recent drop in altcoin prices was due to huge token unlocks. And he noted that digital assets such as Aptos, IMX, Starknet, Say, Arbitrum had unlocks totaling $500 million. $500 million just across those 5 names. That's why we don't like them. That's why we have the Crypto Compendium to tell us what's crap. Pixel, here we have 8% or 7% unlock. ID, 18% unlock. And these are just new ones on top of the ones I just mentioned. ALT, 6.6%. Yield Guild Games, that thing just rains down tokens all the time. Another 5%. All the gaming tokens are money grabs. Portal's there. Prime is there. Optimism is there. Torn, DYDX as well. Again, when a token rains down tokens perpetually, like the XRPs of the world, etc., don't ever expect any price appreciation. It's just not how gravity works. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. Now, Fisker. I've mocked this car company for a long time. Yes, they have officially filed for bankruptcy. Thank you, Sawyer Merritt. That was a foregone conclusion, the Fisker foregone conclusion. I'm going to use a lot of alliteration today because I love alliteration. Switching to the bad news. It was a nasty week in crypto, ladies and gentlemen. This is everything divided by Bitcoin. The only things that were up were things like Lido. Pretty much it. Everything else bled against Bitcoin. Not good. In dollar terms, even Bitcoin itself was down 7%. Ethereum down pretty much the same. Solana down double digits, red. Link down red. Sheep down red. It was just murder out there, ladies and gentlemen. Really, really nasty time. But remember, we've come an awful long way in a short window of time. A lot of people get very upset to say, oh my God, Bitcoin fell 6.76% for the week. But remember, off the floor, it's 4x'd. And that was only a year and a half ago. So everybody, remember, we're in this because of volatility. The higher the volatility, normally the higher the returns. And that's why we play this game. But be careful. Be in quality names. Now, Bitcoin is at a 1-month low. People swear the sky has literally fallen in price. Yes, we hit that 1-month low after 5 out of 6 consecutive days of the ETFs dumping a lot too. And again, we did surge to 67K, I think was on Monday, yesterday. And then we fell to around 64K. And it's critical. I just want to check the price real quick, because I have been talking a lot about the short-term holder cost basis. We hit 64K on the nose today. 64K and it bounced. It's up $1,000 in there. So it looks like maybe that 64K is a pretty good floor for now. But all of this hovers as well around that short-term holder cost basis, which is 63,853 if I'm not mistaken right now. Thank you so much, The Great Escape, for coming. So this is the skinny, and other names as well, of course, lost, declining many percentage points over the week. And another bad news, global liquidity has ticked down a little bit, but don't worry, some good news coming later on this one. There's a tiny dip so far. We had a pretty good liquidity pump in June, but it's just wicked down since I last showed you this last Tuesday. That's not good. Also wicking down is the digital asset fund flows. The digital asset investment products experienced an outflow of about $600 million last week, and that is the largest since March 22nd, 2024. And it was also likely due to a more hawkish than expected FOMC meeting, prompting investors to scale back their exposure to fixed supply assets like Bitcoin. But we'll see. Normally, historically, we don't get many weeks in a row of negative, although here, if you look at this chart, we see we did have 4 negative weeks in a row. And then we had 5 positive weeks in a row. Again, it all varies over time, though. More money will flow in than flows out, which is good. In terms of flows by asset, interesting week. You can see here Bitcoin down 621 million, ETH up 13 million, Solana down 200 grand, Binance up 300 grand, Litecoin 800 grand, short Bitcoin, the biggest mover, up 1.8. And when you see short Bitcoin volume going up, that's typically a bearish sign. So whoever used this tool last week did well. It was a clever trade. In terms of the monthly returns, so far, month of June is down 4%. Not the end of the world. In terms of where we are with the alt season, this is also an interesting chart. Bitcoin, so far, over the last 90 days, is down 2.7%. So you could argue, you could have just gone away for 3 months and come back, and we're pretty much where we were 3 months ago. And that's just how things work. This is the post-halving period. Expect 90 days of stagnancy. Get us to middle of July, and then we'll see what happens. I will be talking about some seasonality stuff tomorrow, which will be interesting. Let me see. Toncoin is the winner so far. Ondo as well. A lot of these new things. They'll pump up, and then they'll pump down again. Pepe's up there too. XMR, etc. And on the far right-hand side, you've got Sui, Arbitrum, Aptos, FET, whatever that is, and Tau, TAO, which I actually made a video on in a Q&A video a couple of weeks ago. Anywho, and it wasn't a raving review by no stretch. Let's see, retail sales as well. We're still in the ugly news. Everybody, sorry, there's a lot of ugly stuff today. Retail sales slump continues, again at a very slower than expected rate in May, as high interest rates and inflation continue to weigh on consumers. Retail sales increased 0.1%, less than the 0.3% economists had expected. April sucked. It was negative 0.2%. And of course, they'll probably revise that down later as well. But things are not looking good out there in the economy. But if you ask people at the Fed, they'll say everything is rosy, everything is wonderful. No, it's not. It's not. Let's look at some U.S. unemployment data. California's crashing. The worst of all the states in the United States now. California unemployment rate hit 5.3%. And we know all these unemployment numbers are kind of garbagey. But be warned, the Fed will tell you unemployment ticked up from 3.9% to 4%. But when you look at the labor reports, it'll say they created 600,000 jobs a month or so, which is all garbage. Anyway, thank you, Linda, as well, for coming. Sorry to be so firm. It's just more of a frustration with government data. It's upsetting, but at least we know the truth, and that's what matters at the end of the day. Every video I do will be turned into a Substack, all the slides, all the content. You can listen to them, watch them, have your own copy, and that's about 10 cents a day. Thank you to the team behind the scenes that work on this as well, everybody. Let's talk about the good news at last. I always want to get the bad stuff out of the way, then get to the good stuff. Let's talk about Bitcoin. The 30-day volatility index is down. Now, the volatility has been dropping significantly, and Alex Thorne from Galaxy shared his chart, which shows a historically low reading on the 30-day realized volatility metric. So despite the fact that price is down, volatility is also down. which sometimes happens before we get into a big run as well. It's also probably in part due to the summer doldrums, which are they just come every year. And remember, the fun season for Bitcoin starts in September, October, November. That's when things kick off. So stack until then, and then we'll get ready for plan B. Fear and greed is still really high at 74, despite the sentiment out there in the world. That surprises me. That shouldn't be this high. Let's look at Bitcoin season versus alt season. We are still very much at 20. We were at 20 last week, 39 the week before that, 47 the week before that. We are down there. So it is a good time to be in Bitcoin, not in altcoins. They are getting completely smashed. Speaking of Bitcoin too, this took 2 years for this to happen. And the people with 10 plus Bitcoin in their wallet just matched the previous all-time high and haven't been this high since for 2 years. Last time was June 16th, 2022. And now this group collectively hold, the 10 plus wallets collectively hold 16.16 million Bitcoin, which is about 84.8% of the total supply. So this is an extremely important cohort. And for the big players to come in, that means you have, call it nearly $750,000 worth of Bitcoin plus. Some people get confused. They think it's just when you say 10 Bitcoin, it's just 10 Bitcoin. No, it's 10 plus. So if you have 10.00001 Bitcoin up to, a sailor bag worth hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin, that's what this cohort represents. So it's good to see the big money coming back in. The retail always come later in the cycle, which is very sad, because I always tell the retail investors, get in early, get in hard. Sorry about that. Annoying phone call. Let's talk. By the way, I never answer my phone, which is fun too. Staking services are taking off. This is the top performing categories over the last 30 days. And last week it was real world assets. This week, staking services eclipsed them, and they've also smashed the returns on Ethereum and Bitcoin. You can see Ethereum is up about 15% for the month. Bitcoin's down about 2.6% for the month. Again, mixed. Speaking of Ethereum, this was a stunning statistic. As we know, I always refer to layer 2s on Ethereum as band-aids. They don't solve the core problem, but this is also reflected in this chart here. You can see very clearly that the green, dark green, is the transaction count on Ethereum, and then everything else is the layer 2s above. So the good news is the layer 2s are growing, at least have been over the past few quarters. The bad news is ETH as a core, their transaction growth is flat. That is interesting. Transactions in the ETH ecosystem have grown about 84% since last year, but the contributions from the layer 2s are remarkable. And some people believe this is good for the future. I still struggle with the value capture because most of the value capture now is happening on the layer 2 side, not on the core ETH side. But anyway, when you put this in perspective, it makes you think, oh wow, all ETH and all the layer 2s are doing 800 million transactions in a quarter. 800 million. Check this. This is daily transactions, not over 90 days, over 1 day, just for perspective. Okay? ETH and all the layer 2s do 800 million in 90 days. There's one puppy here. Solana does 40 million in 1 day. 40 million transactions. So again, Solana does more than all the ETH and all the layer 2s combined, and of course all the other chains in terms of transactions. So I just want to share that as perspective, and we'll see where it goes from here. And you got some other names. Polkadot grew a bit. Polkadot were 20,000 transactions a day not too long ago. Now they're up to 36,000. Cardano 29,000, and the other names you can see. Ethereum flipped Bitcoin. It was higher a few days ago. Now it's back on top. But again, all of the action on Ethereum happens on the layer 2. So that's just for perspective. Now, speaking of Solana 2, Drift and Ondo is just in. Drift Protocol partnered with Ondo Finance to integrate tokenization of real-world assets like treasury bills into Solana DeFi. And this will be big. This is yet another. I covered a lot of the whole RWA stuff last week, because of its explosion in the space. People think ETH is the only RWA chain. That is not true, and there's a lot more capability coming, especially when it comes to tokenization of things like securities. You need insane scale. You're de facto running a stock exchange on a blockchain. And 15 transactions per second doesn't do it. You need tens of thousands of transactions per second just to keep your head above water, just to tokenize equities. So I look very much forward to the future where we can trade 24/7, all assets, all the time, and pair trade between them on one platform. That's my dream. And I hope I'll see it in my lifetime. Hopefully I'll see it in the next couple of years. That could be something that BlackRock is planning. Speaking of Solana 2, this was breaking news today, the big one. Solana Layer 2 Sonic rings up $100 million token valuation. And they are focused. It's a Layer 2 on Solana, which is one of the few that are coming up. And they have raised another $12 million of funding to be able to do Layer 2 gaming. Again, gaming doesn't require a lot of the features and functionalities of Layer 1s, because you can do with a little bit of latency and stuff. Not latency in terms of speed of shooting a bullet at something, but latency in terms of settling up later. And this could be very, very big for the space. Imagine what it's going to do. Also, another bullish sign for Bitcoin itself. This is from Bitcoin Magazine Pro. They just discovered that the hash ribbons are crossing bullish. They were bearish from around the 11th of May to 3 days ago. And hash ribbons, these are consisting of the 30-day and 60-day average hash rate. They're crossing back to bullish for the first time since the halving. We've yet to get a buy signal from this indicator, but they will follow very shortly like they always do in history. And these moving averages always right themselves. While not foolproof, it's a very strong indicator of future bullishness during a bull market. So again, don't give up hope, everybody. And this is also very important for the miners. As you know, we focus on alpha on this channel. Bitcoin miners are a big part of it too. Not just Bitcoin, Bitcoin miners, crypto, disruption, etc. But this shows you the mining activity over the past 30 days. It's been resilient while it's been adjusting to post-halving fundamental changes. Now, if you look at how the hash rate at the halving up high, it has actually fallen down, which is good in these different step changes. It doesn't immediately change, but as the hash goes higher and the Bitcoin price falls, the miners have to turn their rigs off. Once they turn the rigs off, the protocol automatically resets itself and winds the hash rate down, which makes it a little bit better for the miners. And again, the only metrics with a large negative move is revenue from fees, but since that's a small portion of the overall revenue, it has less impact on the miners as a whole. So this is a little bit of a breather for the Bitcoin miners that have been going through some capitulation, which I shared this morning. In addition, RIOT, this is a fun story. RIOT Platforms, a quick update on RIOT since Kerrisdale Capital short sell war announced on 5th of June, which they announced on Twitter. RIOT is now up over 10% and will likely rally more as upgrades to their facilities continue throughout the year and Kerrisdale gets squeezed on their shorts. RIOT has been in the news a lot lately as well, not just because of this, but they've been trying to aggressively acquire Bitfarms too. In full disclosure, I own RIOT, I own Bitfarms, I own CleanSpark, I own Iris Energy now. They're the four miners that I own. But this is going to be fascinating to watch as well. Speaking of RIOT too, I shared this morning, but I'll share it again. There's only two miners that are not selling their produced Bitcoin. That is CleanSpark and RIOT. The rest are selling very aggressively, and this is what we call miner capitulation. Not only are they selling, but the miners that have old rigs are turning them off, and that's bringing this hash rate down post-halving. This is that 90-day period after the halving. The first part is, will the protocol work? The second part is the settling of the miners, adjusting the hash rate, unplugging inefficient rigs, and seeing where the price is going. The third phase is after 90 days, we go up. So I'm excited for that too. I hope you all are as well. Let's switch gears and talk about the stock market. It has been a crazy time. This video is called Crypto's Tanking and AI is Mooning. But if you look at these names, NVIDIA, 12.44% in the first week after the 10-for-1 split. That is completely bonkers. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Tesla up 8.5%. TSM 8.8%. Broadcom 23%. Massive moves. Apple 3%. Microsoft 3%. Meta and Amazon are down. Google down as well. And the rest we don't really care about. But guess who's very bullish on stocks through the year? And not just Goldman Sachs. I think I shared something on Patreon this morning around Goldman and their look forward for the future. But also Bank of America just came out with this report. They are super bullish. Their FMS sentiment remains the most bullish they have been since November 2021. So we'll see what happens after that. But they could be off. But again, I think it's dangerous to paint with a broad brush. You've got to be in the right assets because a lot of the market is simply not doing well at all. It's been driven by AI. That's it. As I said, since 2022, two narratives matter: AI, crypto. Forget the rest. This shows you exactly what happened. So the combined market cap of all the 2,000 companies in the small cap Russell 2000 index is $3.02 trillion. The market cap of the three largest companies is over 3.5 times that of the 2,000 companies in the small cap Russell. Microsoft, 3.33. Apple, 3.3. And NVIDIA just broke them both. We'll talk about NVIDIA in a second, but let's talk about Apple first. I remember when the goggles came out, I said, who would spend $3,500 on things that'll give you a migraine? It didn't make sense to me and too expensive and just looked silly. Well, nobody could have predicted this, except I did. But Apple have reportedly suspended work on the Vision Pro 2 due to slowing demand. I would not call it slowing demand. I'd call it non-existent demand. Okay, the early adopters with $3,500 to burn on a headache, they'll buy them, but nobody else. You might be able to sell the things for $500. Even that's a lot of money. But anyhow, that's Gogglegate. Now back to AI and disruption, which is so important. Breaking news: for the first time ever, NVIDIA is now the largest stock company in the world. Largest, bigger than Microsoft, bigger than Apple, bigger than Google, bigger than Amazon. And it came out of obscurity. And there's other crazy news too. This was just breaking right before, shout out to Sanjay as well. But there's a thing called the Spider Fund, XLK, which is the Technology Select Sector Fund. And it's managed by State Street Global Advisors. And they said they will buy $10 billion worth of NVIDIA while slashing its exposure to Apple. And that's from Matthew Bartolini, I think. He's the head, and he confirmed that. So basically, they're ditching their Apple, and they're going to reallocate to NVIDIA as they go forward. And this is the result of some of that too. NVIDIA is up 900% over the last 18 months. Absolutely bonkers. All because they sell chips to support this AI revolution. And in full disclosure, I own NVIDIA as well. That chart is just crazy. It's like, again, this is just 18 months. And I should overlay actually Solana against this. Solana actually did better. But NVIDIA is a very big company. Solana is much smaller. So that's crazy. Now, speaking of AI and disruption, we also have some breaking news too. Elon Musk, he talked about it at the shareholder meeting, called it not a new chapter, but a new book. And he's now working on the Tesla Master Plan 4. It will be epic. I made a video. I can't remember where it is or when I made it, but it was about all the Tesla Master Plans 1, 2, and 3 and how they've developed and what could be next. I actually made it before Master Plan 3 came out, now I remember, to try and anticipate what would be in it. And that's all about global sustainability and everything else. Number 4 will be completely bonkers. That'll be about autonomy, self-driving vehicles, robots, AGI, and a world of perfect abundance as long as you own some of it, or else you could be left behind. And tomorrow we have, well, we're going to talk more about this too. But I want to spend 1 second sharing this tweet, which is, again, just broke in the news about an hour ago from Eric Voorhees. And he talks about how not only did privately funded SpaceX obliterate taxpayer-funded NASA in rockets in space, but as a side hustle, Elon Musk brought affordable internet to the entire planet. Starlink is live in over 100 countries. Meanwhile, the bipartisan infrastructure law spent roughly $65 billion of taxpayer money, i.e. debt on your children, in order to do jack poop. Whatever jack poop is, I think it's probably nothing. But this is the issue. When you give governments your money, they waste it on stupid things. When you give the best capital allocator in the world money, they 10x it, 100x it, etc. And that's key. And that's what you see in things like this. And there's no doubt in my mind that Tesla will have their NVIDIA moment one day soon. And tomorrow we'll be discussing that. This is Cern Basher, friend of the show. How many bots? We got a lot of breadcrumbs from the shareholder meeting that got me very excited. So I decided to bring our friends on and we'll break down modeling for Master Plan Part 4. We don't know what's going to be in it, but I tell you, we have a lot of breadcrumbs to be able to put some stuff around. And I can tell you, when I look at my Tesla modeling, a lot of the stuff that I did before with people like Cern and Herbert, etc., and Hans, we're bringing it forward. So it's going to be very exciting. And we'll break everything down, of course, in a very based way. We're not going to get too excited, but the truth is, there's crazy stuff coming. So shout out to the team. We'll be here tomorrow, 1 p.m. Pacific, on all of our channels together. And another bit of Tesla breaking news. A lot of people are snagging these things. The Tesla Model 3 long range is now qualifies for the $7,500 US federal tax credit, which means you can get it for under $40K. And you can drive a long way. You can drive 4 times longer than you need bathroom breaks. That's the way I measure it. It's like, people say, oh, the range is only 400 miles or 360 miles. It's like, my bladder doesn't last that long. So if yours does, well done. And final piece of good news, everybody. This is from Steno Larsen. Liquidity is coming in July. The Fed keeps liquidity conditions stable to increase QE light. And here, mid-June to July, the liquidity is going to go up from about 6.1 trillion to 6.6 trillion through the end of the year. Money is coming, and that will float all of our boats, ladies and gentlemen. So hope you enjoyed the show. Hope you enjoyed the 45 nuggets. Fun story of where we are going. Bitcoin, 65,000. We made it back. And thank you once again to Sean Donnelly and K8 and everybody out there. Really appreciate you all turning up. And have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll do Bitcoin Daily early in the morning, and then we're going to do some live modeling for Tesla. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.